Hi folks, it's Andy and welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. We've got some fantastic questions as always. This week we've got plenty to get through, so we'll get onto them in just a minute. A couple of things I want to talk about first. I think you know what the first one is. Shop at KendoStar, yeah? It's in the corner up here. Got banners behind me, everything. Yeah, shop at KendoStar. That's what keeps the lights on. It keeps this channel going, all right? So if you like the videos I put out for free, shop at KendoStar, all right? It's the best shop. All the kit that we sell is brilliant. If you don't, of course I'd say that because I own the place, but check out the reviews. And then you get great stuff. We get to keep doing the channel. We get to keep running our business. Everybody's happy. Okay? Good. Right. Second, just before I jump into these questions, I want to address a little topic that came up in the Kendo Show Early Access group on Facebook. If you're not in that group, get in the group. There's a link in the description below. And someone was asking about sort of different embroidery things on their doggy or different coloured himo and stuff like this. And, you know, I answered the question and said, like, look, you know, yeah, you can have the embroidery of your school logo, I think it was, on the Kendogi, and like even the motif on the door. They're asking about like asymmetric door mune designs as well, which is totally cool. I've got one that's like that. And then also about coloured himo. And the answer I gave to the coloured himo, for example, was, you know, yeah, you can do it, but it doesn't look as cool as you think it does, right? Speaking as someone who's actually been down that road, yeah, the coloured himo thing, just trust me on it, all right? I wish I had asked somebody first like you did, so you made the right decision. But a couple of things came up in that where sort of a comment was made about, yeah, you know, if you wear something too flashy, then, you know, you might get beaten down or by, you know, the other people. And I made a sort of reply to that saying, like, you know, you shouldn't do that. And which is fair because, the other person came back and said, yeah, no, I meant in sort of a kind of camaraderie, jokey way, no sort of ill intentions, which is fine. That's one thing, but there is this sort of culture that exists of like shaming people for the burger that they've got, or like, oh, if you wear a coloured door it means you think that you're something that you're not, and you know, and I'll beat you down for it and that sort of thing. And it's so toxic, it has to stop, right? I've never seen that in Japan. Nobody judges you for your burger in Japan. You know, it's not uncommon, for example, in Japan for people just starting out in kendo to buy very expensive hand-stitched burger sets, even if they're sort of adult beginners, mainly because, you know, they know they're going to carry on with kendo because they know what kendo is in the first place. I'm not suggesting people should do that. They probably shouldn't. But, you know, nobody then turns around and says, who do you think you are, like, buying that sort of expensive kit? Right, I'm going to show you. Like, don't do that, right? Don't do that for a start, right? It's one thing sort of taking a mick and having a bit of a laugh with your mates in the dojo saying, oh, that nice door sort of thing, you know, that's different. Yeah, but when you start saying like, right, I'm gonna beat you up for this, like, you're just a bully, right? Now, having said that, another comment was then posted saying, I asked before about wearing the musashi which is the kind of pattern kendogi, and you know, was told it was only for kids. And it's like, yeah. So the reason I want to talk about this, and I know I'm not super coherent on it, and we will get into these questions in a sec, but I want to talk about this a bit because I know it can seem a little bit contradictory that on the one hand I'm saying, well, the coloured himo don't look as cool as you think it does, and if you wear a pattern kendogi you're going to look like a kid. And then on the other I'm saying, well, you shouldn't judge people for what they're wearing in the dojo. That is a bit of a contradiction. I get that. Now, what I'm saying, why I want to clarify that, right, is that you're totally free to wear different coloured himo, and if you want to wear a Musashi Zashi Kendogi, that's totally fine by me. Totally fine. Yeah. In my opinion, it doesn't look as good as you think it does, and that's free for me to think, right? What I'm not saying though, right, is you should get beaten up for it, or you should, you know, somebody should like really show you how you're not worthy of wearing that sort of thing. You see what I mean? That's the difference. So that's the thing that I'm really sort of, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to not encourage, I want to really discourage. You know, if you want a different coloured door, fine, wear a different coloured door. I got my first full black door this year, right? I've never worn a full black door. Yeah, I've always worn different coloured door. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't deserve beaten up or anything like that for wearing a different coloured door. You don't deserve it for wearing different coloured himo or anything like that. I might think it looks a bit silly or a little bit daft, but that's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to punish you for it though. All right. So I want to clear that up and just make sure that everyone's cool with that and knows where I stand on it at least. And I think, you know, that really, one more time, because I do feel super passionately about it, right? If you're one of those people that's like, yeah, if you wear a coloured door and you're a beginner, you think you're something you're not. You're doing kendo wrong, yeah? That isn't that's just stop it, yeah? Right. Let's get into this question. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a question that may be worth addressing in one of your Q&A videos, and maybe you can just give me quick advice. My question is, this came to me by email, by the way. It's about tenuguri and a different material for the tenuguri in particular. There's this brand that's making very nice sports products, and one of them is a microfiber yoga towel. It's a springy material that's about 3 times thicker than the standard tenuguri, and it's supposed to be able to absorb sweat, water very well. And it does. While being thicker, it might provide additional cushion for the men. So my question is, did you ever try and use other types of materials for tenuguri? Would it make sense for the folks that are lacking natural cushioning form of hair to use thicker modern materials for this purpose? Or are there any pros and cons? And what are your overall take of the role of tenuguri in general? So yeah, look, I have experimented a little bit looking into different materials for tenuguri, and I don't like any of the things that I found so far. I don't think a thicker material is a good idea. The tenuguri isn't really supposed to provide extra padding. Your boga should provide adequate padding, and if you do need extra, then you should use a specific pad for it. So don't think the tenuguri is the right role for it. Look, you know, my hair's grown out a little bit, but it doesn't, you know, I'm used to doing kendo with very little to no hair, so I'm not sure that really stacks up either. I don't think a stretchy material for a tenuguri is a good idea either. I think the firmness of the cotton tenuguri is fine, and I think if it's not broke, you shouldn't fix it. You know, I think the tenuguri does its job pretty well. You know, this sort of thing often comes from the sort of struggle to learn to tie the tenuguri properly, because it's quite difficult to learn to do that. But there isn't a shortcut. Once you get doing it properly, it'll be fine. All right. So I have looked into it. I didn't like it very much, so we're sticking as we are. Next one, I have a wonderful new biwa bokken from KendoStar, thank you very much, which is almost white. I love it, but after practice I get blue marks from the eyes on it. Are we supposed to clean the bokken? From my point of view, I think it's nice like that, and if so, what product is better to use, water and soap? So I've never cleaned my bokken. And I don't mind the look of the sort of aizome on it. Now, I understand, though, that if you've bought a very expensive biwa bokken, you might want to keep it clean. There's not a lot you can do to avoid getting the aizome blue dye on the bokken if you use it for kendo practice. And yeah, it might well come off with some soap and water, so it's definitely worth giving it a try. Or like even like, I don't know what it's called, but like I think there's these like like cleaning pads you can get. Like my wife's got them all around the house. They're like these white cubes that like they look like sponges, but they're slightly different. I think they've got some sort of thing cleaning stuff in them. So when you wet them, and then, you know, she uses them for cleaning the tables and stuff. So maybe something like that. I don't know. I've never done it myself. I don't. You know, if I was using a biwa bokken, now I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Bit of controversial statement coming up. I use a pretty cheapo bokken, so I've got 2 bokken. Well, my wife and I have got 2 bokken between us. Should probably say. One's just like a basic red oak one, and another is one of the compressed bamboo ones. I have thought about getting a nicer one, but I don't use it enough, so I don't. But yeah, if I was like doing kata a lot and I had a very expensive bokken, I'd probably do it in the same way as I do with a hakama and kendogi, in that I'd probably save my nicer one for like a special occasions like seminars or gradings, and then use a cheaper one for practice if I was bothered about it getting dirty. But then, you know, why would I buy an expensive book and only need to use it once or twice a year? I'd just buy an expensive book and use it all the time. And probably, if it was me, I probably just wouldn't care about the marks, because they get on it and then they wear off again, you know. So that's my thoughts on it anyway. As you return to the dojo, what has been on your mind, both as a teacher and for your personal kendo as well? Thanks for the great videos. They're always helpful. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I've been back to the dojo for 2 weeks now. Just me and the family, because we're allowed children's sports inside now. So, obviously, we're all the same household anyway, so it's no big deal there. But, like, we weren't able to get a venue to practice until now, so we've got the dojo back. So yeah, I mean, at the minute, like in the last two weeks that I've been doing it, I guess what's been on my mind has been sort of dusting off the cobwebs, trying to get back to doing like kendo how I'd like to do it, well, at least something towards that, and not getting hurt and not getting battered by my wife. She beat me the other day and he punched over. That was so annoying. Yeah. Just watch that Gakudo video I did. You've seen that Gakudo video I did? The Gakudo? Go and watch that. Looks like she was in it. And yeah, it works, turns out. And as a teacher, then, yeah, I mean, obviously it's just me and my kids at the minute. But from sort of next week, we're going to start sort of more individual adult training a bit. It's still only on individual sort of people practicing individually, no paired work or anything like that. But at the minute, I'm just going straight back to basis and almost back to day one for everybody, and just start at the beginning and then take it step by step. Next one. I wondered for a long time about the kinds of Kiai hase that are used in high-level kendo. It doesn't always seem to conform to the typical Kote-Men do tsuki, but I can't really make out what's being vocalized. For example, in your How to Beat a Blocker video with Max, his Kiai or hase seems to be pretty one-to-one with what he's striking, but during the demonstrations where you're striking, there are sounds like there's more going on. Yeah, okay. That video is quite old now, you know. So I don't really remember. I think I filmed that video like 5 or 6 years ago. But sort of pulled it up the other day. I'm thinking, crikey, I look thinner. I've got to shed off some of these these lockdown pounds. But about that, there's another question about this as well. So we're going to get to another question and it's going to be the same answer. But there's two things. First, you know, obviously we teach, you say men, kote, do, and ski, right? And that is what we teach as Kihon, and you should do that. It's not in the rules that you have to do that. Let's just make that clear. But we do teach that generally as the accepted method of learning Kendo Kihon. Now, I am saying in my video, and when I'm doing it, and it says, I'll skip ahead to the other question. The other one says, you know, thanks for the amazing content, the weekly dedication to Kendo Show community by answering the questions. No, thank you for watching. As a beginner, I wanted to ask about the shout during Kiai. My sensei and other senpai normally have very different Kiai, and they vary through circumstances. Should I develop my own unique Kiai? Do the words have to mean anything or be in Japanese? Also, when you strike using Kentai no Ichi, do you usually enunciate men, kote? My sensei's Kiais all sound like regardless of what he's hitting. Any advice on developing a natural and threatening Kiai? Thank you loads. So, you see how they're both really similar questions. So, I'm going to sort of answer them together. So, yeah. First, let's talk about hase, or the first initial shout. Yeah! Okay? I say ya. Most people say ya, and it's usually taught as ya. You don't have to particularly say anything, but ya is a good starting point. And then as you sort of get into it, you'll sort of develop your own thing, I guess, without thinking too much. About the strikes, what you enunciate say is the strikes. Yes, like I said, generally we teach to say Kote-Men do, and usually that is what people are saying. Now, especially if you watch sort of the Japanese players, it doesn't always sound like that's what they're saying, and it might not sound like that's what I'm saying in the video you mentioned as well in the first question, but I am. All right, it doesn't sound so much like it, but I am saying it. So even though I don't say kote or men, yeah, like especially like if you watch the Japanese players, you'll think yeah, like this. That's in Japanese. That sort of sounds like men, but I get that it doesn't necessarily if you don't speak Japanese. Um, Even kote, yeah, or even just like this, yeah. Um, Sort of sounds like kote in Japanese. So, yeah. Say Kote-Men Donski when you're doing it, and then as you get more experience, you'll sort of develop your own way. All right. Um. Okay. So I am saying it. They are saying it, even though it doesn't necessarily sound just like they're saying it. But with more experience, you'll kind of develop your own way of saying it, shall we say? Okay. I think that answers the questions. Hope so. Next one. Why do Kendo cars? Oh no, I've missed one. This is a spicy one. Is there a lot of drama behind the scenes and stuff in the Kendo supply industry? I know she mentioned a vendor with a certain shinai grip having a tendency to send nasty letters. And also that filming in the Borga workshop may be frowned upon by others. Here I was envisioning a pretty straightforward supply chain of sewing Borga and shaving shinais. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, it did come up. Someone put a question last week saying, what did I think of X Shinai grip that's offered by a different company? And I replied and said, look, I can't answer that because every time I talk about that company or even do anything involving that company that I used to work for, they have a sort of penchant for sending me threatening letters and then sending threatening letters to my family in Japan and stuff like that, and I'm sick of throwing them away, so I'd rather not get involved. It unfortunately, yeah, it's in Japan it's what they'd call a dirty industry, in that it's like everyone's untrustworthy. It's almost run like a mafia. Like, it's really bad, and I'm really glad to be outside of it now. The industry in Japan is just gross, and like they're all backstabbing. They all hate each other. All these different companies, they all team up with they all try and make little teams with each other so that they can try and put the other one out of business. They'll do stuff like they'll kind of form up and then they'll be like, right, let's all like try and steal this workshop from that company, and we'll try and get a contract from them so that everything they make they can only send to us, and then that company won't be able to get any stock and it'll put them out of business. And they'll do that even though they don't want the stuff. So yeah, that's kind of that's something that I was shocked at. Yeah, I hate it, and I'm like I say, I'm glad I'm not involved in it anymore. To be honest, because all I want to do is help people do Kendo, and that's like well down the priority list of most of these companies over there, especially the bigger ones. So yeah, there is a lot of drama in it, and I don't even like interacting with them anymore, to be honest. So yeah, the kind of. Some of them even they'll try and sort of sneak in, and like they'll be like pretend to be a friend, and then they'll backstab you and stuff, and it's just anyway it's not a cool thing. But yeah, there's a lot of drama and it's not cool, and they all hate each other, right? About the filming of the Burger Workshop, it's more of a logistics problem than anything else. I don't necessarily mind doing it, but like it's not that simple and not that easy, okay? Because I'm not located where the actual workshop is, and I don't want to get someone else to do it. I'm very precious over my YouTube channel and the footage and the content that I put out, and I like to make sure I'm in charge of it all myself. So I'd have to go there, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that for a start. So, and I'm not sure I like the idea of putting out that either, because then, you know, like I say, what I don't want then is I don't really know if I should be talking about this in this video. I don't even know if you want to hear about it, but because it's a big industry, but it's not a mega industry. Okay, so, you know, if I put out there some of that sort of behind the scenes detail, it's not that hard then for some other company that for some reason has I say for some reason, it's because we you know, we do a better job than they do. You know, we'll try and then attack the people that are in there, and I don't want that happening either. So I'm not doing that either. And so yeah, it's just a bit complicated. Anyway, that's the spicy one done. Why do Kendo cars seem to use ski Waza, specifically Furukawa sensei and the Eiga brothers, more than others? Is it based on who their sensei was, personal preference, or something completely different? Do you tend to use ski Waza yourself? Okay, that's a really good question, and it's interesting you highlighted Furukawa sensei and the Eiga brothers. I'm not sure if you know, but Furukawa sensei is the Eiga brothers sensei. Okay, so they're really good at ski, probably largely because that's something that Furukawa sensei has kind of been a specialist of. Yeah, it's quite rare in Japan. All right, there's not many kendoka in Japan that are like, yeah, ski is probably my best waza or my tokui waza or one of my better waza. Like, so they're kind of a special case in a way. But Furukawa sensei has really obviously made ski his thing, and he's obviously passed that on to his students, two of which are the Eiga brothers. So I think that's more where it comes from. I mean, and there are other kendoka that have really sort of polished their ski waza and then become very, very. Lots of people have become very proficient at it, but to the extent where they will regularly use it at an elite level tournament. There's very, very few. Takanabe Susumu, for example, became very proficient at ski waza and won several tournaments with it. So yeah, it's not just that either. I think a lot of it is whether they decide to take that on as their sort of preferred waza. Next one, I have a 3-part question regarding kamon on a door. If a particular family still has living members, does it require you to get permission to wear the kamon on your door? Second, if the family does not have any living members, is it frowned upon to wear the crest? Third, what if you had a kamon created from your non-Japanese name? Would that be acceptable to use? Okay, so first off, no, you don't need anyone's permission to wear a kamon. A kamon is a Japanese family like family crest. They're like round with different symbols in. So you don't need anyone's permission for it because they don't really own them. Yeah, they just use them. So and there's there's only a certain number of sort of official ones, and several of them are used by several different families. So it's not, and it's not in a lot of cases. It's not even that it's like super accurate that they trace back centuries or something like that. It's just that like someone somewhere was like, "Oh, that's a cool one. We'll use that." There's definitely an element of that as well. So no, you don't need someone's permission. However, it is a family crest, and there are people who use that as part of their family heritage. In fact, most Japanese people do. So I have a door, a couple of door with my wife's family kamon on it, because her dad said that I could use it. I wouldn't have done it if we hadn't had that conversation. I wouldn't have done it then. But I'm part of that family, because when you get married in Japanese culture, your families become one. So I am officially part of my wife's family. Okay. So I'm, not entitled, but you know, it's not wrong for me to use it. Not that it'd be wrong for anyone else to. So yeah, but like I say, you're free to do it. No one's gonna arrest you. No one's gonna kind of give you trouble. No one's gonna be like, "How dare you disrespect us" or anything like that. But it might look a little bit weird. All right. So some people use them as their dojo logos, and some people just like them, so they use them. You know, if there's one particular you like the look of, then fine, use it. Why not? No one, you know, no one's gonna. If someone's like, "What? How dare you use that?" So I just like the picture. Having one created, I mean, you could do that as well. Sure, why not? I mean, that's all they are. Someone made them up at some point, right? So, you know, I know there's gonna be people out there like, no, there's a tradition to them and stuff like that, and there is, but everyday people in Japan don't take them that seriously, all right? They don't take them that seriously, all right? So it's up to you. They do look good, don't they? To be honest, I mean, that's why I have one on a couple of my door, I guess. So yeah, if you want, do it. Thanks again for the amazing content and weekly dedication to the Kendo show. No, thank you. I wish I could put more out. I really do, but it's a bit tough. As a beginner, I wanted to ask... oh, no, we've just done this one. We just did it. Okay, just rewind and watch that answer again. Okay, it's about the Kiai. Do you know when and why they stopped to grant the 9th and 10th Dan in Kendo? Yeah, I think I answered this a couple of months ago, and that's why I know the answer, because I had to research it. I think it was in the early 2000s that they stopped giving out 9th and 10th Dan, and the rationale was to make 8th Dan Hanshi. Well, Hanshi, they want Hanshi to be the top grade. All right, and you get they made it so you had to get 8th Dan to get Hanshi, and then they wanted 8th Dan Hanshi to be the top grade. So they removed 9th and 10th Dan. All right, so essentially 10th Dan is kind of the Hanshi is like the new equivalent of 10th Dan in a way. It's the pinnacle. Great. I think what they did is they wanted to give more not precedence, but more kind of weight to the shogo, the Renshi, Kyoshi, and Hanshi. Okay, so that's what I think. When I was rewatching Takanabe Susumu's practice video, I noticed it's such a good video that I noticed that his Kote-Men uchi was kind of different. His body was lent in during the Kote strike rather than being fully straight. Hence the whole Kote-Men strike did not look like a fluid motion, like his Motodachi Urakawa did afterwards when they both switched to somewhat choppy. Is this just another way of doing Kote-Men uchi, and would you recommend or not recommend copying it? Okay, so yeah, I watched the video. I know what you mean. And unfortunately, I think the video lacks a little bit of explanation there. It depends what level you're at, right? But if you're like second dan or below, do the other way, the way that his Motodachi does, all right? The Kote-Men, all right? For the sake of your Kihon. Basically there's a few different types of Kote-Men, all right? So the one that his partner, Mr. Urakawa, does is the kind of standard Renzoku Kote-Men, okay? Yeah, step into distance and Kote-Men, yeah? Pam pam, yeah, step in, pam pam, this way. And then what Takanabe sensei shows in his demonstration is a kind of separate type, which is where he steps in, yeah, and then pam, pam, this way, yeah? Kote-Men, yeah? So it's like 100% kote, 100% men. Whereas the previous one is more like Kote-Men, like, you know? So instead of like pam, pam, it's like pam, pam, this way. So it's a slightly more practical one, because essentially he does turn a bit because his partner is blocking, like it's like they're blocking the men. So essentially you do semi, they start to block this way, pam, kote like that, that'll bring the hands back this way, and then pam pam men that way. Yeah, so it's a different type of it. It's a little bit more practical in some ways, but it's a more advanced version of it. Okay, it's not wrong, definitely not. It's good. I think it's not well considered to use the wide door himo, Korean style, and door button cord stopper are considered for kids. Is it for technical reasons or for traditional purposes? Okay, so the wide door himo, those things, those fat things that look like tada himo, yeah, and the door buttons are like these gold things that you can thread the himo through, so you don't have to bother tying your door. I say it's for kids, right? Like, if you go to a serious kids dojo in Japan, the kids aren't allowed to use them. So why don't we? What's the reason for it? Yeah, it's traditional reasons. Of course it is, and that isn't doesn't mean they should be dismissed. Tradition is an important element of kendo. The tradition of kendo and of the boga and how to properly wear the boga is an important element of the aspect of Japanese culture that kendo represents. Yeah, it's largely for it. And those wide dohimo, they look rubbish. I don't like those. But that's just me. That's just me, all right? But you won't see them on KendoStar. So yeah, it's better to it's better to use the in my opinion, the traditional dohimo and learn to tie them properly. Okay. It's not necessarily. I mean, if you're talking about technical or practical reasons, of course, the buttons, for example, the buttons are obviously more sort of practical. I mean, why would we even in buttons? We could just put Velcro or something, or hooks. We could do all sorts of things to make it easier, right? But we don't, because it's part of the culture. I've done a video about why I don't think we'll modernize the design of the men, which I talked about it in more detail. Nearly there. Hi Andy, most if not all sensei emphasize not moving the left foot before attacking. So when and where is the appropriate chance to actually use tsugiyashi? Cheers. Okay, this is a good question. And when you put it yesterday, I did read it. And my wife and I had a chat about this over dinner. Because I think you make a good point, because there's some confusing aspects to the term tsugiyashi. Some teachers use tsugiyashi as part of their kihon practice. Essentially, the idea of tsugiyashi is when you have essentially from a wider stance, or even from a standard stance, you bring the left foot up almost parallel and then move the right foot out. Okay, that's tsugiyashi. So it'd be like this, okay, instead of this. I'm going to make this simple, all right? I'm going to make this simple, and it's more nuanced than I'm making it. And there are deeper elements as to where what I'm about to say isn't necessarily true. But in the broadest sense, and for most people, in 90% of situations, I consider the term, and most kendo teachers I know of consider the term tsugiyashi as a negative phrase, okay? So if they say you're doing tsugiyashi, it's a criticism, and it's not something that there is a proper chance to do, or you shouldn't do, right? Essentially, you shouldn't do it, right? There's almost no situations where it's correct to do tsugiyashi, especially in an actual match or a tachiai. Doesn't mean never, because it depends on your experience, and there might be some sort of outlier or some other reason, right? But on the whole, it's not a good thing. There are practice methods that intentionally use it for certain reasons, but I don't like them, and lots of teachers don't like them, because the problem with tsugiyashi is it's such an easy habit to pick up that's such a difficult one to get rid of. And you really don't want that habit, all right? So yeah, just ignore tsugiyashi as a technique or a valid type of ashisabaki, and consider it a negative. I have another question. What would you think of a VR kendo game? I think it could be fun. It could be fun, but it wouldn't be accurate, would it? Because you'd need loads of space, like, to sort of run around. So, and you wouldn't get any proper feedback off the other player. I mean, it'd be a bit of fun, and I'd probably play it for like a week. Probably wouldn't invest in VR kit for it though. Last one. I've always struggled with doing Keiko with a mask on since COVID. I admit that I have very poor cardio, but with a mask on, I've never been able to last long enough to lift the shinai properly in the closing kirikaishi, mawari geiko, and also disappointing to me and my partner since after 1 or 2 minutes bouts, I can't constantly go for shikakiwaza and my zanshin looks like a marathoner in the last mile. There's no one else in the dojo seem to be affected. What can I do other than do more cardio? I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult. Obviously doing more cardio is part of it, right? And I think the other thing is probably you need to try and get a bit of better control over your breathing. Now, you are going to be handicapped by this mask. I get it. And hopefully, you know, I hope we don't have to do it for much longer. All right? I hope we don't have to do it for much longer. With the cloth mask. I don't you know, but it is what it is. So yeah, I don't know what I can say than that. I mean, probably you need to try and just calm down a little bit whilst you've got it on, and probably try not to exert yourself quite as hard. I mean, you do have to exert yourself, of course you do, but you know, when you're doing jigeko, you don't have to constantly go for shikakiwaza. I mean, you have, you know, especially if you've got this thing over your face like this, you're gonna have to sort of understand how your body is reacting, and sort of you're gonna have to balance that, aren't you? Yeah. So I'd probably just try and focus on breathing a bit deeper, and maybe not exerting yourself quite as much whilst you're under this situation. Just push yourself as far as you can with you know, with the fact that you're handicapped by the mask. You know what I mean? Because obviously we have to push ourselves as hard as we can in Kendo, but then if you're going to add a handicap like the mask, then yeah, it's going to be, you're going to have to adjust that, right? So I think that's all I can say on that. That's it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll post out for more questions next week. Like, share, subscribe, you know, all that sort of stuff. Most importantly, shop at KendoStar. You know, that's what you got to do to keep me putting these videos out. See you next time. Bye-bye.